I found my wife's affair with her boss, and now she's suing me for half of our $1.2 million house and $300, $0 in life insurance, claiming I manipulated her into signing the property over before she started the affair. But I have proof she was cheating months earlier. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Thank you very much. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd catch my wife, Emily, cheating on me, especially not with her boss, Marcus. The thing is, it happened so suddenly, and the way she lied about everything made it feel like I was living in some twisted nightmare. I had no idea how deep this rabbit hole was going to go, but looking back, there were signs I ignored, little things that should have tipped me off, but I was too blind or maybe just too comfortable to notice. Our life was pretty straightforward. We had a high-end house worth around $1.2 million, a life insurance policy worth $300, $0, and what I thought was a solid marriage. Emily was a bit bitchy, always quick to dismiss my concerns, and she had this way of twisting facts into her favor. She'd say I was paranoid or that I was just insecure. But I knew something was off when she started working late more often, and her phone became her little secret. She'd always be on her phone, texting or scrolling, and when I asked her about it, she'd brush me off, say it was just work stuff or her friends. The first real sign was a few weeks ago when I noticed her acting weird after work. She'd come home late, smelling like perfume I didn't recognize, and she'd be extra defensive when I asked about where she'd been. She told me she was just networking, trying to get ahead at her job, but I could tell she was hiding something. I remember one night, I caught her leaving her phone on the nightstand, and I saw a message pop up from Marcus, something flirty, maybe even a little provocative. I was stunned. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew then that she was hiding something. One night I decided to follow her. I didn't want to accuse her outright, but I needed to know the truth. She left the house around 9 p.m. saying she was going to a late dinner with some friends. I followed her at a distance, keeping to the shadows. She went to a fancy hotel downtown, not far from her office. I watched her go inside and I waited. About an hour later, I saw her come out looking flushed and hurried. She got into a car with Marcus. That's when I knew for sure she was cheating on me. I didn't confront her that night. I just went home, my mind swirling with questions and rage. How long had this been going on? Was I just blind? Did she ever love me? It was a shock I wasn't prepared for, and it hit me hard. I kept replaying everything, her lies, her dismissals, the way she'd snap at me when I tried to talk about us. I realized I'd been living in a bubble, pretending everything was fine when it was. But now there was no denying it. Emily was having an affair and she didn't care how much it hurt me. That's when I started digging. I pulled her emails, her texts, her social media, anything I could get my hands on. I found evidence that she'd been cheating on me for months. The messages from Marcus, the hotel receipts, the late-night texts, everything pointed to a long-standing affair. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. How could she do this? After everything we shared, I thought we had a good marriage, but apparently she was just pretending. What made it worse was her lying about everything. She insisted she loved me, that Marcus was just a work friend, and that I was overreacting. She'd say I was paranoid, accuse me of manipulating her into signing over the house or trying to control her. She even claimed I was turning her against her own boss, that I was jealous and insecure. But I had proof, screenshots, bank statements, hotel check-ins, and I wasn't about to let her gaslight me. Now I'm stuck in this mess. She's threatening to sue me for half of the house, claiming I manipulated her into signing everything over before she started the affair. The truth is, I have proof she was cheating months earlier, and I know she's just trying to spin it so she can walk away with a big chunk of our assets. This whole thing feels like some twisted game, and I'm the one left to pick up the pieces. I don't know what's worse, her betrayal or the fact that she's now trying to turn everything around on me. I thought I knew her, but I was dead wrong. After I uncovered everything, I didn't even know where to start. The shock of realizing my wife, Emily, had been cheating on me with her boss, Marcus, for months hit me harder than I expected. It was like my whole world was crumbling beneath my feet. I had trusted her completely. We built a life together, or so I thought. Now I was staring at proof that she had been lying to my face for a long time, and worse, she was trying to turn it around on me. The first thing I did was confront her. I didn't plan to be gentle. I was furious and hurt. I remember walking into our bedroom where she was sitting on the bed, scrolling through her phone like nothing was wrong. I slammed the door behind me and told her I knew everything. Her face twisted into this nasty smirk, like she was proud of herself or maybe just trying to act like she didn't care. She looked at me and said, "You're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just paranoid because you're insecure." That was her go-to line, always dismissing my feelings. She then started spinning this story about how Marcus was just a mentor, that they never did anything more than work together. She claimed I was trying to control her and that I manipulated her into signing over the house. That last part was a lie, but she kept insisting it was true, even when I threw all my evidence on the table: screenshots, bank statements, hotel check-in receipts. I told her I knew about the affair, that I'd seen the texts, and that I was done believing her lies. Her reaction was classic Emily. She got defensive, raised her voice, called me crazy, and accused me of trying to ruin her career and her life. She said I was jealous, that I didn't trust her, that she still loved me but was just trying to get through the rough patch. It was all bullshit. I could see right through her act. She was desperate to keep her secrets hidden, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. That night, I felt a mix of rage, sadness, and betrayal. I'd always thought we had a good marriage, but now I realized she was just pretending. I kept thinking about the mornings I'd wake up next to her, the conversations, the plans we made. None of it was real to her. She was out there, sneaking around, lying to my face, and I was supposed to just accept it. I couldn't. I felt so stupid for not noticing the signs earlier, for missing the clues that she was unhappy or hiding something. The emotional toll was immense. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying all the moments I missed, all the times she brushed me off or was unusually distant. I wondered how long she'd been planning this, how many lies she'd told to cover her tracks. The worst part was feeling so helpless, like I had no control over the situation, like I was just a victim of her deception. I felt betrayed, not just because she was cheating, but because she'd lied so convincingly, so effortlessly, that I questioned everything I thought I knew about her and our marriage. And then there was the money. She kept insisting I had manipulated her into signing over the house, but I had proof she signed the papers months ago, long before I even suspected she was cheating. I knew she was lying, trying to spin the story to her advantage. She wanted half of everything, including the house and the life insurance policy, claiming I'd coerced her. It made me furious. She was willing to ruin us just to get her hands on the money, and I was sick of her lies and manipulation. I decided I needed a plan. I couldn't let her walk away with a dime of what we'd built. I started gathering everything: the signed documents, her texts, her emails. I wanted to be ready for whatever legal battle was coming. I also knew I had to keep my cool, even if I felt like exploding inside. I wasn't going to let her see how much she'd hurt me, at least not yet. I needed to be strategic to outsmart her. This whole situation has changed me. I used to trust so easily. Now I see the world differently. I see how easy it is for someone to hide their true self behind a mask. I also learned that betrayal cuts deep, and it's not just about the cheating. It's about the lies, the manipulation, and the way someone can destroy everything you thought was real. I'm still trying to process it all, but one thing is clear: I won't let her win. I'll fight for what's mine, and I'll make sure she pays for what she did. After I gathered all the evidence and confronted Emily, things escalated quickly. She doubled down on her lies, trying to paint herself as the victim while insisting I was the one at fault. Her bitchy attitude only made it worse. She'd throw tantrums, call me paranoid, accuse me of being controlling, and even say I was crazy to think she'd cheat on me. It was like she was trying to gaslight me into doubting my own instincts, but I wasn't about to let her get away with it. The worst part was the legal threat she dropped. Out of nowhere, she announced she was planning to sue me for half of everything: our house, the life insurance, everything we owned. She claimed I manipulated her into signing over the house before she started her affair, which was a blatant lie. I had proof she signed the papers months before I even suspected anything, and I had the texts and hotel receipts to back it up. But she was relentless, spinning her own version of events, trying to make me look like the bad guy. She kept insisting that I was a controlling husband who forced her to sign the house over, that I used my power to manipulate her into giving me half. It was so absurd I almost laughed. I knew she was trying to turn the tables, to make herself seem innocent, but I had the receipts, the timestamps, everything. I knew she was lying, and I was ready to fight her in court if it came to that. The thing about Emily is, she's always been bitchy and manipulative, but now she was just outright aggressive. She'd scream at me, call me names, accuse me of ruining her career, her reputation, and even her life. She said I was jealous, insecure, and that I was trying to control her every move, all because I discovered her affair. I told her she was the one who was controlling, sneaking around, lying to me daily. I told her I had enough of her games, and if she wanted to go to court, I was ready. I started consulting lawyers, trying to understand what my rights were, what I could do to protect myself and our assets. I also hired a private investigator to keep an eye on her, just in case she tried to hide or transfer any more money or assets. The more I dug, the more I realized how much she'd been planning this betrayal. She'd even opened secret bank accounts and hidden some of her side income from Marcus. It all added up. The house, that massive symbol of our life together, was now a battleground. She claimed I had manipulated her into signing the property over, but I had the signed papers, notarized and everything. I knew she was lying to try to get more than she deserved. The life insurance was another point of contention. She said I'd pressured her to sign the beneficiary over to me, but I had evidence that she'd done that herself, long before she started her affair. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt betrayed, angry, and exhausted. Sometimes I wondered how I'd ever trust again. I'd been blindsided, and now I was fighting not just for my assets but for my dignity. Emily's constant lies, her bitchy attitude, her attempts to manipulate the situation, it all made me realize how much I'd been blind to her true nature. I started questioning everything. Was I ever happy? Did she ever love me? Or was I just a placeholder in her life? I knew I had to stay strong. I couldn't let her see how much her betrayal hurt me. I kept my cool around her, even when she was yelling and accusing me of all sorts of things. I focused on gathering my evidence, talking to lawyers, and planning my next move. I also started emotionally distancing myself, trying to prepare for the worst, either a long legal battle or a clean break. I wasn't sure which was worse, but I knew I would. Let her manipulate me into giving her the house or the insurance without a fight. In the back of my mind, I kept thinking about the betrayal and how it changed everything. I'd loved her, trusted her, and now I was left with nothing but questions and anger. But I also realized I had to protect myself, my future, and what I'd worked so hard for. Emily's lies and her manipulations only made me more determined to see this through. I wasn't going to let her walk away with my house, my money, or my dignity. Not without a battle. The legal fight was now in full swing, and I knew I had to be strategic. Emily was relentless. Her bitchy attitude only intensified as she tried to twist everything to her advantage. She kept insisting I had manipulated her into signing over the house, that I had some kind of hold over her, but I had the signed documents, notarized and clear. She was trying to back me into a corner, claiming that she was too emotionally compromised when she signed everything, that I had taken advantage of her during a vulnerable moment. Her whole story was a lie. I had the proof that she signed the house papers months before she started her affair with Marcus. I had the timestamps, the notary records, everything. But Emily was good at lying. She'd deny, spin, and throw accusations. She'd say I forced her, that I was a controlling husband who manipulated her into signing away her rights. She even claimed I threatened her, though I had no idea where she got that from. All I knew was I had the documents, and I wasn't about to let her rewrite history. She was also trying to claim the life insurance policy was her property, that I coerced her into changing the beneficiary. That was another blatant lie. I had the original paperwork where she signed the beneficiary over to me voluntarily, long before I found out she was cheating. I kept copies of everything, and I had witnesses who could confirm she signed those documents willingly. But Emily is a master manipulator. She's bitchy and aggressive, always throwing tantrums when things didn't go her way. She insisted I was trying to steal her money, her assets, her way of turning me into the bad guy. Meanwhile, the house was the biggest sticking point. It's our biggest asset, worth over $1 million, and she wanted half. She kept saying I had coerced her into signing it over, that I'd used my influence to get her to give me her share. I kept repeating that she signed the papers herself willingly, and I had the legal proof. Her response was to scream, call me names, and accuse me of being a controlling, manipulative asshole. That's her usual tactic: deflect, deny, and attack. I also learned she'd been secretly transferring money to Marcus and hiding some of her side income. I hired a private investigator, and sure enough, he uncovered bank transfers, secret accounts, and receipts from hotel stays with Marcus. It was like peeling back layers of a lie. All the while, Emily was trying to paint herself as the victim, saying I was paranoid and possessive. But the evidence was overwhelming. She had been planning this betrayal for months, and now she was doing everything to cover her tracks. The court process was exhausting. I had to prepare affidavits, gather all the evidence, and fight her accusations. I knew she was trying to distract from the real issue, her affair and her lies. I stayed calm, even when she was bitching and yelling, because I knew losing my temper wouldn't help. I had to be smarter than her. I kept reminding myself that I had the truth on my side, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into giving her half of everything without a fight. One night, I sat down and went through every piece of evidence I had: screenshots of her texts, hotel receipts, bank statements, the signed documents. It was overwhelming, but it gave me clarity. I realized how much she'd lied and how much she'd tried to manipulate the situation. I also decided I needed to start documenting everything more meticulously: every conversation, every exchange, every interaction, so I'd be prepared for whatever came next. At the same time, I couldn't help feeling a deep sense of betrayal. I'd loved her, trusted her, and now I saw her for what she really was: a manipulative, bitchy woman who'd do anything for money and control. It hurt to think about all the years we shared, all the plans we made, and how she'd thrown it all away for her affair. But I knew I had to focus. I had to protect myself, my assets, and my future. This whole ordeal has changed my perspective on trust, love, and betrayal. I never thought I'd be fighting to keep what's mine against someone I once believed loved me. But here I am, fighting for my house, my life insurance, my dignity. Emily's lies and her manipulations are relentless, but I refuse to let her win. I've got the proof, and I'm ready to see this through. I just hope I come out on the other side with my head held high. The legal battle dragged on, and I quickly realized Emily wasn't going to go quietly. She became more aggressive, more bitchy in her accusations, trying to spin all this as me being some kind of controlling monster who forced her into signing everything. I knew her game. She was desperate, and her threats grew more intense. She kept saying she'd sue me for half of the house, the life insurance, everything we had. I had my lawyer review all the documents, and we prepared our case meticulously. I kept pushing back against her claims that I manipulated her into signing over the house. I had the notarized papers, the timestamps, the witnesses, everything lined up in my favor. But Emily didn't care. She kept insisting I had forced her, that I'd threatened her during some vulnerable moment. It was all bullshit. She was just trying to cover her tracks and make me look like the bad guy. She also kept trying to claim I coerced her into changing the beneficiary of the life insurance. That was another lie. I had the original paperwork showing she signed the beneficiary over to me willingly, long before she started her affair. I had witnesses who saw her sign it, and I had the bank statements proving she transferred money to Marcus secretly. She was trying to paint herself as the victim, but the evidence was against her. Meanwhile, Emily's attitude was getting worse. She'd scream at me in front of friends and family, call me names, and try to humiliate me publicly. It was her way of trying to break me down. She'd say I was jealous, insecure, and that I'd ruined her career by accusing her of cheating. But I knew the truth. I knew she'd been lying for months. Her affair with Marcus was no secret anymore. I had the texts, the hotel receipts, and the bank transfers. I also learned she'd been hiding money. She'd opened secret accounts and transferred some of her side income there. I hired a private investigator, and he uncovered more than I expected. She'd even been meeting Marcus at hotels under fake names, sneaking around like a criminal. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about betrayal, deception, and greed. She was willing to do anything to keep her secrets and walk away with my assets. The worst part was watching her try to manipulate everyone around her. She told her friends I was abusive, controlling, and jealous, trying to turn their sympathies against me. But I had nothing to hide. I stayed calm, collected, and focused on the facts. I knew she was a master at lying and twisting stories, but I had the proof. I also knew I had to prepare for the worst, possibly losing the house, the insurance, or even my reputation. The court hearings were exhausting. I had to relive everything: her lies, her affair, her manipulations. I was emotionally drained, but I refused to break down. I focused on staying composed, gathering more evidence, and making sure I was ready for whatever was coming. I also started to distance myself emotionally from Emily. I couldn't let her control me anymore. She was spiteful and bitchy, and I knew I couldn't trust her. I kept asking myself how I got here, how I went from a man who loved his wife to someone fighting tooth and nail just to keep what's his. But I also realized something important. I deserved better. I deserved someone honest, loyal, and faithful. Emily was none of those things. Her betrayal was a wake-up call, and I was determined not to let her destroy what I worked so hard for. This whole ordeal has been a brutal lesson in trust, betrayal, and resilience. I've lost a lot: my peace of mind, my sense of security, maybe even my faith in marriage. But I've also gained clarity. I know now that I need to protect myself, my assets, and my sanity. Emily's lies and her manipulations won't define me. I will stand my ground, fight for what's rightfully mine, and move on from this nightmare. I just hope I come out of it stronger, and with my dignity intact. The court date finally arrived after months of fighting, and I knew this was the moment everything would be decided. I sat in the courtroom, feeling a strange mixture of exhaustion and determination. Emily was there, her bitchy smirk trying to hide her nerves, but I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. She thought she could manipulate her way out of this, spin her lies one more time, but I had all the evidence on my side. The signed documents, the bank records, the hotel receipts, the witness testimonies, they all painted a clear picture. She wasn't the innocent victim she claimed to be. She was a manipulative, greedy woman who'd betrayed me in every way possible. When the judge finally called the case, I felt a strange sense of relief. I presented my case calmly, laying out everything step by step. I explained how she signed over the house long before her affair, how she'd been secretly transferring money, and how her claims of manipulation were just her desperate attempt to get more. I showed the court her texts, her hotel check-ins, the bank statements, everything that proved her guilt. I could see her trying to interrupt, trying to spin her story, but the evidence was overwhelming. Emily's lawyer tried to argue that I had coerced her into signing. But it was laughable. The judge looked at the documents, listened to the witnesses, and then made her decision. She ruled in my favor on most counts, awarding me full ownership of the house, denying Emily's claim to the life insurance beneficiary change, and ordering her to pay court costs. It was a huge relief, but it didn't erase the pain or the betrayal I'd endured. Emily's face twisted in anger and frustration as she realized she wasn't going to get what she wanted. She tried one last time to argue, but the judge cut her off. She stormed out of the courtroom, screaming and calling me names, but I didn't care. I felt a strange sense of closure, knowing I had fought for what was rightfully mine and had won. It was a long, brutal battle, but I came out stronger. In the weeks that followed, I started rebuilding my life. I sold the house, something I'd never thought I'd do, and moved into a smaller place where I could finally breathe. The money from the sale helped me pay off some debts and start fresh. I also cut all ties with Emily. I blocked her on everything, refusing to let her manipulate or guilt me anymore. Her lies, her manipulations, her bitchy attitude, they're all a part of my past now. Looking back, I realize I've learned a lot from this nightmare. Trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I fought for my dignity, my assets, and my sanity. I won't let someone like Emily ruin me or take what I've worked so hard for. Most importantly, I've come to see that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away. No matter how much you loved someone or how much you wanted things to work, if they're dishonest and manipulative, it's better to cut your losses and move on. I still feel the pain, but I also feel relief. I can finally start healing, rebuild my life and trust again, slowly, cautiously. This whole experience has been a brutal lesson in resilience, betrayal, and self-worth. I hope anyone going through something similar learns to stand their ground, gather proof, and fight for what's theirs. Don't let a manipulative, bitchy partner destroy you. Because in the end, the truth always comes out, and justice has a way of catching up with those who try to lie their way out of it.